welcome to All Things Football. I think we're episode 5 now. Could be 6. Episode 6. And we keep it going. It's going well. Jay, how are you, mate? Everything good?
Yeah, superb, mate. You okay?
Yeah, very well, mate. Thank you very much.
How's that gardening going? Have you killed any more trees?
I give up yesterday. I couldn't do any more damage to the garden, so I've give up. And yeah, we're just a nice chill day today. But do you want to introduce our next guest, mate?
Oh, do you know, I was working out how to introduce him. My mum has always told me that I fall in love too easy. But I've met a lot of footballers over my time, and I've told too many people that they're my favourite. But actually, I'm about to introduce my favourite ever football man in football. Did you know that? I've had 320 of these, but so I guess he could be my current one. Anyway, we'll get going. Introducing today on the podcast is Alex Revell. Afternoon, Alex.
Afternoon, fellas. Afternoon. How are you?
All good, mate. Yourself?
Good. I'm good. Living in this new age of interviews, which is different, isn't it? It's a new thing. Seeing your faces like they are, so no, it's a new. Listen, it's great to speak to you.
And you,
normally when I'm stood at the tunnel at Stevenage, I know when Alex has run out onto the pitch because I have a feel of an almighty thud across my backside where he smacks it. I don't know what it is. I can understand it, but yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Anyway. Let's jump straight into it, Alex. It's a bit of a this is your life thing, really. To be fair, mate, we're going to be going through everything, asking you loads of questions about your career, all the way up to date, and then finding out a bit more about you, if possible. So, where did it all begin for you? Where did the love of football start?
The love of football started. I was 6, and back then, when I was obviously younger, it was the age groups were a lot younger when you started getting involved. And I got involved in a thing called Pass Soccer, which was ran by Paul Ashworth, which was Dan Ashworth's brother, who's now obviously Dan Ashworth's the big spearhead, obviously, of football now, the guru type thing. So I got into one of his soccer schools, and I actually joined Cambridge United at under 7s, I think it was then. Was lucky enough that I went all the way up from under 7s all the way to a professional at Cambridge. So learned everything there. Loved playing and just my life was football then. It was in the garden, didn't have any computers, didn't have anything like that. It was in the garden, big brother booting balls at me as hard as he could, and how it should be, just literally outside, Christmas Day, outside with a football. And just, I think that's for me where, my love came, obviously just being around at home playing, and then lucky enough to get spotted and go on to obviously, being a professional. So very lucky.
That's a long time at one club, mate, isn't it? From 7, and did you have any disappointments at all along the way, or what was it like as well getting that scholarship at 16? Did you go digs then, or was you close to Cambridge at the time?
No, I had a lot of disappointments in the whole thing. I think when you're younger now, it wouldn't happen now, but I was 8 years old, and it went on my first kind of football trip without the parents, and you're learning how to fend for yourself. I dislocated my knee at 15, and obviously I thought that chance of having a scholarship had gone, but I got back, and then obviously I found out that I'd got a scholarship even though I'd got injured, and I came back, and I was strong. I worked hard. Every day I got the bus after school into Cambridge and swam every day. I had this focus that I wanted to kind of get what I wanted, and I did. I got fit, and luckily for me, I got given my scholarship. And back then, obviously, it was the 3 years that you had, which has changed now. So you had education as well. But to me, it was everything that I've ever wanted, and I think back then when you got scholarship in Cambridge, even though I lived in Cambridge, you had to go and live in digs. So you were then surrounded by second years and third years. So we had all the old initiations that wouldn't be legal now. So you had all those again, which to me was character building that made you. It was all just part of football back then. which obviously, certain things have come out now, which obviously is unfortunate that they've happened at certain clubs. But back then it was just about character building, about how, you have to now fend for yourself. And I loved it. I loved my time. I think I loved my time probably up until I got given a professional contract, really. I think one big thing that I was a big advocate when I took over as the 18s manager at the start of the season was I never realised how much pressure is put on you when you're a pro. Back then, especially for me, I came from Cambridge. I knew a lot of people in Cambridge. I was in the town all the time, just growing up there. And then all of a sudden, the same people that you went to school with, or you went, on a Friday night with your mates, were the ones who were shouting abuse at you because you're now a player. You're not there, you are there, mate, but as in, you're not the same person because actually they support the football club that you played for. So I found that really tough. Found it really tough. I found it tough mentally to deal with not playing. Yeah. Even at 17, I expected myself to be playing every week. Unrealistic expectations, and that was a real hard thing that I never got taught. I never got taught how to deal with that, and that's probably why, in the end, I was there for a certain amount of time. Never really kind of did what I wanted to do at Cambridge because it was my club I supported. I'd supported them all my life, and then I just quit football. I quit. I left football.
What was that? Was that after your, what, did you get a year pro, did you? And then quit, and or was it just during your contract you walked out?
Yeah, so what happened was John Beck got I just finished my first year youth team. So I just started driving. I was in my second year youth team. Just started driving, and John Beck took charge of the first team, and we all know about obviously John Beck's way of playing football, head it and kick it. So obviously I was a brilliant candidate for one of his players, and he watched the reserve game one day, and then all of a sudden I was on my way home and I got a phone call saying I'm coming early tomorrow, and he offered me a 2-year contract, just on that basis, and that was towards the end of the season, and we had to win something like 4 games out of the remaining 8 to stay up. And I played in a lot of them games, and all of a sudden I was just thrust into this, position which I'd never even expected to. But back then, the psychological side of it wasn't a big part of football. If I think you were deemed as a little bit weak.
Yeah.
I think back then, whereas now obviously it's a big part of it. Whereas now it wasn't back then. So I played, and then new managers came in and out, and then all of a sudden we got taken. Claude Leroy came over and took charge of us, who was the Congo manager, and he came and took charge of us, and he started training us at night, and it's real strange things. And I know that training us at night, and I just thought, this is just not for me. I just didn't enjoy it. I was injured. I had a lot of injuries just because I couldn't deal with the physical side of it. And I was coming to the end of my contract anyway, and I just turned around and said, you know what, I hate it. I hate football. Literally, I couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand it. The people that I thought were close to me at the time within the group, I realised very quickly in football, they're not real. It's hard to find real friends in football sometimes.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because you leave, you go to a new club, you come back. So, and I left. I just went home, and that was it. I didn't want to go in. I just couldn't deal with it. I just couldn't deal with that side of it. So, and which is a hard thing when you think it's the game you love. It's all you've ever done, and all of a sudden you don't enjoy it anymore. So I stopped, and I did a personal training course, and nutrition, and then I had a phone call from George Borg. It was at Braintree at the time, and they were in the Ryman Premier. And George Borg is one of the biggest characters you've ever met in non-league football. Yeah. And he was massive to me. He got the love of football back to me. I played. He used to come in on a day because I was lucky enough. I did personal training. I worked my own hours, so I could go and train in a day. He'd come in, train, and luckily for me, I met him, and he got the love of football back for me. You know, just through working with me, encouraging me, and devoting all his time to me. And I still speak to him to this day. I ring him for advice now, just because he's
funny, that one, Al, isn't it? Because if you, I've come across George quite a number of times with Dad when he's been manager. And funny enough, I watched Braintree St Albans just before the lockdown come, and he's still as mad as ever. And if you look from an outside, you think, oh, you wouldn't want to play for him, and he's a nightmare, and what a lunatic. But actually, you don't see the other little sides of these managers, at what they do. And like you say, you're still in contact with him now. And as I say, if you look on the outside and you didn't know him, you think he's just a lunatic and he's got no interest in anything other than shouting at people. So that's a really nice side to see that he done that for you and how he was with you.
Yeah, listen, he drove me to Brighton. He drove me, like, I scored a lot of goals for them, and it was a time when it was me, DJ Campbell, and I can't remember. Oh, Jermaine Beckford. We're all in the Ryman Premier League at the same time.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, interest in the Ryman League became, you know, a lot more. And there was, I've got, you know, my mum's obviously keeps out cutouts, and it was like, West Ham want you, all these people want you all of a sudden because you're scoring goals. And I remember, just a story, I remember on George, we played Haybridge Swifts away, and we were losing at half time, and it goes, this is just kind of an image of him. He walked in and we were losing 1-0, and there was a door on the, like, within the changing room, and obviously he thought it was just an old, you know, hollow door. What he didn't realise is that the door had been filled in, and it had like been completely filled with cement. Basically, it was just a steel door, or a steel door. He's gone to headbutt it in rage. All of a sudden, he's turned around. He's got this massive egg on his head, where he's headbutted the door, and he's all like he literally, he was out. He's concussed himself completely. Couldn't remember a thing because he's just so passionate. And in that moment, I realised, I think for me, was that shows how passionate I am. You know, in really, actually, to me was what got me back to loving football again.
Yeah.
Because he showed it both in coming in and also in how he coached.
Yeah, there was a few good players then as well. I remember that league back then, because you had DJ was at Hayes and Yedding, weren't he? Or Yedding at the time, and Jermaine was at Wildstone. That was seriously powerful front three, weren't it, in different teams?
Yeah, it was good. It was a really good league then, and I think obviously I do genuinely actually believe that really helped some non-league players. It really put it back on the map. You know, it really did, because after that, a lot of players started going in, which was great. But at the end of the season, we got promoted to the Conference South, and Brighton offered me the chance to go there under Mark McGee. And George actually drove me down there. He stayed, he watched, we went together. And Brighton signed me from there. And then obviously since then, it's I've never looked back really, and it's been, you know, a great ride to where I am today. So yeah, without doubt. And people ask me about the most important manager in your like career, and everyone would be like, obviously it's got to be someone who's tactical. It's not. It's actually the ones that just bring the best out of you. It has to be, you know, the people that bring the best out in you have to be.
I've got a fantastic question for you later now, because you've just put two managers in my head, and I'm going to ask you who's worse, but we'll ask that later, mate.
I know what's coming.
I'll let Jay go on to the next bit.
We got a lot of questions lined up for you, Revs, but you're beating us to the questions, so you're killing us today. It's funny, we've had two stories in the last two podcasts about people headbutting things. Yesterday we had Mark Gower, who headbutted some balloons and ended up knocking himself unconscious. And then we got but that's unbelievable. You're was it 39 in 65 for Braintree you scored? How did that move to Brighton come about?
It just came about that they came to watch a few games, and then towards the end of the season, Mark McGee came to watch a game, No one told me obviously what was going on, and he came to watch, and then they invited me to train. I think because of the momentum that we'd all built up, like I said, the three of us were all scoring goals, and it was I think DJ that year he got close to 50. I think it was just a season where we literally, he was unplayable that year. Jermaine was similar. I think Jermaine was similar to me. So I went in and trained, and because I'd managed to get that love of it again, it's just such a strange, people say that if you're a centre forward and you haven't scored for 10 goals, what makes you all of a sudden go into a run of scoring 10 goals in a row? And it's really strange, because what happened, because I've got that love for the game again, I went in there, I wasn't nervous. I just went in and I did what I'd been doing for Braintree, and I pitched it, and I went in, and they wanted to sign me there and then, but obviously we couldn't. And that was when they were in the Championship at the time. We went down to League One. So I signed for them in League One. I met the owner that was Dick Knight. And he, I went down there, and I thought, you know what, the best thing for me to do now is to sign for a club like this that's sleeping giant really at the time, because we were at the Withdean, but also it was away from everything. It was a completely new start. It was going to Braintree, and this is one piece of advice I always give, that if you ever do get released from a pro club, to go back down into non-league. Now, it used to be seen as a real negative. It really was. It used to be. To me now, it's the best thing that I ever did.
I was going to say that to you, mate. It's funny because we talked to, say, Mark Gower yesterday, slipped out of Spurs, went into Barnet. Barnet get relegated to the Conference. He then finds himself, before you know it, he's playing in the Premiership. For yourself as well, you do need a little bit of luck along the way, but do you think when you left Cambridge, that was you done with football at the time and it was literally you weren't going to play again? Or was it that you wanted to go and prove them wrong?
At that time, I didn't want to play again. I was I was at a rock bottom regarding, I think, everything actually. I generally look back at that time and you think, do you know what, you're only 17, but actually, like, already, all your dreams, I was 20 then, because I'd signed a 2-year deal. So, your dreams are gone. You know what I mean? So now I understand how people feel, and it's definitely 100% that feeling of that I felt that when I just didn't want to play, still with me today in terms of how I treat people.
Yeah,
it has to be, because
I think you said it as well, though, mate.
I know what people are going through.
No, I think you said it about the dropping into the amount of players I speak to now at 19, 20, and I love the fact that they want to go back into full-time football. But I have to say to them sometimes, you need to go and prove a point. Come and play, put yourself on the map, and trust me, people won't unnotice. They'll notice you straight away, and if they want you, they'll sign you. But going on trial to trial to trial and not getting that regular football in non-league will eventually cost you, and they'll go and get someone who is playing, and it's trying to get them to understand that. And like you say, if you get released at 18, you've got that ability. So in there somewhere as a player, and if you can go and get it out of you in non-league football, go and do it, and you'll get the move back into the Football League.
Yeah, well, I genuinely feel now that there's no better time to be in non-league. I really don't, because every club is looking for that gem. Now, if you're a goal scorer and you have you go through a bad spell and you end up in non-league, you don't lose that knack of scoring goals. You just don't. It's there. Yeah. And all of a sudden, if you go and score at any level, someone who hits the net is all wanted. Always. Yeah. A midfielder. The one thing I would say is that if you do get released or you do go to non-league, the biggest thing you can do is have a look at yourself and realise what you are.
Yeah.
As a player. So why did I get released? It's hard to comprehend that in younger players. It's really hard to do that. But actually, if you can look and go, right, what am I? Am I a midfielder, a box to box, or am I a holding midfielder? Am I a forward that can hold up, or am I someone who's going to run in behind? The best thing to do is to define yourself.
Yeah.
Because then I can come to you as a manager of the non-league and say, right, this is what I want to do. This is how I need to do it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things where I was lucky enough at the time, like I say, with George, and I he got his rewards because as a club, Braintree, and I still go there. I still speak to I love that club because it will always it's given me everything what I've got today, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, totally. Just moving on, mate. So after Brighton, you had a few little spells at one at Swindon, Wickham, and then Orient. How did you find them, mate? And it never quite worked out at maybe all three of them. What was it like for you?
Well, I moved right to Southend. That brought me, and got to be honest, I just had a terrible time there. Loads of injury. I signed, and then within a week I got a hernia, and I ripped a hernia away at Millwall, and then all of a sudden you're on the back foot because someone's paid for you, and there's pressure. And then I struggled to get back from that. And then after the summer, I came back in the team. We played Leighton away, and I broke my leg in a game at Orient, and I was out for 6 months with that. Right. So my time at Southend was just so in and out, and I just couldn't get going. And I actually started to play the best football just before I remember we went on a run there. We beat Leeds. We had some really good spells in League One, and then all of a sudden I broke my leg, and I just found myself back at square one again, and it was tough. I found myself in that position of being tested again in terms mentally of how you deal with it. I came back pre-season, and then they let me go on loan, and I just got married, and then Danny Wilson came in.
We're struggling with your Wi-Fi, aren't we? Sorry, mate, we're just struggling with your Wi-Fi a little bit. We are.
How are you?
We've lost you a few times, mate. Yeah.
Is that any better?
That seems a bit better, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no. Like I'm just saying that I went on loan then to Swindon from Southend with Danny Wilson. Danny Wilson came in for me, and again just started well, but it just certain times doesn't happen for you. And then Swindon found Charlie Austin and Billy Painter, and it was the year when they scored 40 goals, I think, in 20 games between them, and they got to the playoffs. So I went back to Southend, and then I left Southend and went to Wickham, and played under Gary Waddock, and again really enjoyed myself there. Loved the club, loved the training ground, everything about it. Scored some goals, and we went down on the last day, which was a shame, down to League Two. But we were quite far down, and when I joined, I think we were bottom, and we got to within a point of staying up. So I left there on a really good note. And then that summer signed for Orient.
What was that like at Orient?
Yeah, it was when Barry Hearn had it. It was a really good club. Russell Slade was the manager. Love Russell, just a good general guy, great person, great man manager. We have Kevin Nugent as assistant manager, very good coach. And what he assembled there was a group of players that were, I don't want to say misfits because that's a bit wrong, but he assembled a squad there of just players that, like you said earlier, had a lot to prove, really. And all grafters, all hard-working people that had a point to prove, and good, honest players. And I think we were second favourites that year or something to go down. And we actually finished a point outside the playoffs. It was myself and Scott McLeish. We played Arsenal. We drew Arsenal in the FA Cup. We went on a great run. Then we got to the Emirates and lost 7, I think, or Nicholas Bentner scored a hat-trick that day. But yeah, we had a great year. We had Charlie Daniels left back. We just had good people. And again, I learned a lot from that group of players, that at a level of football of League 1 and 2, a lot matters about who you sign in terms of getting a good group of people. Yeah, who want to work for the cause.
Jay, I know Scott McLeish really well. He's a really close friend of the family, and believe it or not, he would drink a bottle of Diet Coke, a bottle of Coke, a night before a game, and have a kebab. Night before a game, swears blind. It works for him. And he said every manager would allow him to do it as well.
He was a player and a half, by the way. He was a goal scorer.
He is still playing now as well.
Yeah. Well, he's the PFA rep. Yeah.
Yeah.
We still see him
Great
now.
guy.
Yeah. He's yeah. We had a great squad of players that, like I say, just wanted to do well, and we finished a point outside the playoffs, and then I think that summer Russell made some changes of players that he brought in that I think changed the ethos of the team a little bit and changed the dynamics, which I think he regrets, because I think that the club probably changed their way of what they wanted to go because we finished a point outside the playoffs. And sometimes success can make you think that you want to get more than that, but actually having a real solid team spirit and togetherness and a cohesion goes further than buying a couple of players that might just, you think that might, change it. So but from then on, I signed for Rotherham, and obviously, which was a big move for me in my career.
Well, that was 150 games, probably your most settled part of your career, really, wasn't it? And a certain goal that happened. How was that for you at Rotherham?
Yeah, it was. Listen, it was. I've got to be honest. In sometimes in life, you get a little decision to make. And my wife we were due, I think, 3 weeks from the transfer deadline day, and I told her that we're moving to Rotherham. And it was a tough move. It was a tough move at the time. So we'd always lived around Cambridge, and then we lived around London because my wife was at uni there. So we kind of got used to where we lived. And then all of a sudden we were right, we're off. But she came, and it was a big decision. I saw what they were trying to build in terms of a new stadium. Andy Scott was the manager. We played at the athletics track in Sheffield, and it was a tough. I'd gone from the Withdean as well, playing on the athletics track, and then I went to there, and it was tough. But I saw what they were trying to achieve, and then halfway towards the end of the season, Andy Scott got sacked, and then obviously Steve Evans came in, which is, I know where your question's going later. But listen, I remember Steve Evans he came in and he'd had success at Crawley, and I think he came in with a reputation that some people had of him. And I've always been of that kind of nature that you've got to give someone a chance until, and give me a chance to judge them. And he came in and it was tough. He actually, within about 2 weeks, he said that he bought in Coyote Olajayi in January, I think. Well, no, sorry, the summer of that. And he actually said to me that I could go to Crawley. And obviously we just got settled, and I said, look, so I had another big decision to make. Do I go back down or not? And I actually turned it down. I said, look, I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay. I want to fight. I haven't moved here for a reason, like any other reason that I want success here. And again, as was going to Braintree, that decision there probably defined the rest of my career, really, because I didn't go. And sometimes, whenever I've had a gut feeling, I've always gone with it in football. People say, don't know, some follow your gut. And that's what I did. And to be honest with you, 2 weeks after that, I played every game. And I think I played every game. I played something like 122 appearances on the spin without not playing. So I think that decision to stay there defined the rest of me, really, in my career. And then we got promoted that year from League 2 to League 1 on the last day of the season. And then the following year in League 1, obviously, was a year where we were tipped to get relegated. And we just, again, we had a group of players that had developed and grown together, plus a couple of additions in the summer. And we just had this unbelievable, again, cohesion just of all of us together, that we had people that just wanted to work hard for each other. We'd run through brick walls for each other. And for some, that to me is just a successful team already there, plus talent on top of that. And one of Steve Evans always says that, if you work hard, your talent box will always come out, but get to that level where you work as hard as you can for each other, and it will always come out. And when you're in it, you're thinking, oh, it's just, it's another thing. But actually, it's true. And we had that in abundance, and it proved it that we had this spirit that never say die. And it proved it when we got obviously to the playoff final, that 2-0 down at half time. And then we managed to come back and get promoted to the championship, which was an unbelievable rise from, League Two, playing in a stadium with a running track, to going to the championship, Wembley, getting promoted in front of, I think there was 50-odd thousand there that day. So it was special memories.
Let's talk about that goal. I'm not having it. We can't not bring it up.
Before you go there, I've got to tell you the Steve Evans story. So I come across Steve Evans when I was probably 7 years of age. So when Dad was manager of a team called Stotfold, they play in the UCL League, which is actually a very, very strong league back in the day. And Steve was manager of all the northern side, so it was Stanford, Spalding, Boston, and all them clubs. So I come across him, and when I tell you, they actually got on really, really well. At one point, Steve Evans become chairman of Corby Town and employed my dad as manager. I don't know what was going on. Then my dad resigned 24 hours later, and they actually got on very well, but it was madness. And they used to have, I'm talking fist fights on the sideline, the pair of them. They were so passionate. And I used to watch, and I'd be nearly flood to tears, like thinking my dad fighting Steve Evans. They would just go at it for 90 minutes and have a beer after the game. Now, again, he's got that reputation of, and I know a couple of people that have played under him, he's got that reputation of he's just a horror. He just shouts and screams. He's a nightmare. But you can't knock the guy's record of promotions and achievement in football. He's done a very, very good job. So before we go on to that goal, how did you find him, Al? Was he good for you?
Listen, I've got to be honest with you. Like I said to you about George, I think I found myself in that situation where I feel like I probably play better for people that actually demand that of you. Sometimes he's one of those characters that is all front. He would demand it. It's a show. People, that's what he does. It's his passion overflowing. It's what he does. But behind closed doors, I'm very close to Steve now. Very close. I speak, once a week still now. Obviously now I've gone into what I'm doing. Now I speak to him. But what he did was he got the best out of me by probably putting so much demand on me that actually I knew I had to get there. I had to do that every week. And he made it very simple. And I genuinely feel like now, this is why he is so good. It's simple. You do your job. As a winger, your job as a winger is to supply crosses. You work up and down as hard as you can and you supply crosses. Revs, your job was to hold the ball up, win your headers and get in the box. Simple as that. So I knew every game, if I won my headers and I closed down and I worked hard and I got in the box and waited for crosses, he'd never say a thing to me. Never. Yeah. If you're a centre half and you won every header and you smashed the centre forward and you kept clean sheets, and he'd never say a word. But if you cheated him or you cheated the team, that's it. You'd get taken off after 25 minutes. And he's had to calm down now, obviously, because I thought that was 6 years ago, and even since then, time's moved on. It's moved on. But he's still as passionate as ever. And he's had success. And he deserved that year. He deserved it because his plan and his hard work and the way he treated people got us to where we were. That you can't deny that. But sometimes in football, your recruitment and the way that you get players in will define you as a manager, because he brought in players that all just wanted to work hard, good players, honest players that just would run through brick walls for each other.
Yeah.
So 2014, Wembley, a certain goal against an old club of yours. How was that?
Yeah. Listen, it was it's obviously the best memory I have in football, without doubt. The weird thing is, whenever you think about it, it's hard. You don't really remember. I watch it back still now, like every now and then. Like my son still watches it back. Every night before bed, we all watch it.
Get round the telly.
Get round the telly, guys. Come on, we're watching it again. but it's this is what you dream of, isn't it? It's like you practice it in your garden, and I probably practiced it in games, and it's probably gone in the river over the stands. I don't know, a few people have caught them in the stands, but it was just one of those things that I remember saying after that, because I think I scored the first goal. It was almost like I just could hit it because I've scored one at Wembley. I've scored one. So that one was there. Probably if I hadn't have scored the first one, would I have done it? Probably not, because I had that confidence. And like I said earlier, for some reason, I've probably never fulfilled enough of that, because I don't mean the strike, but what I mean by that as a career is you have those moments, and my father-in-law talks about it a lot. When you're stepping up to a putt as a golfer, you're gonna, if you're in full of confidence, you're just gonna roll it in. For whatever reason, you don't even feel the ball hit the putter. It just goes in. And for some reason in football, you get in that thing where it just happens. You see it almost before it does happen. So, but when you're low on confidence, it doesn't happen like that. And that was just one of the moments. But listen, the whole day, the whole experience, but the fact that all my family was there, friends, and like my dad.
Were your boys there?
So my eldest one was born, but my little one was. My wife was 7 months pregnant. But my dad was there, and obviously that was probably one of the only games that he probably came to. So it means a big moment for me, because obviously it was one of the moments, like, he's not with me anymore, but it was one of the big things that we would always talk about, because it was a big moment for us. So it was real big.
Is that the game? Is that the one where Steve Evans? Sorry, mate.
Yeah,
is that the one where Steve Evans ran down the line?
Yeah.
With his pants around his ankles, virtually.
Yeah. Not quite Mourinho, I think it'll say.
So after that, after Rotherham, you get your move to Cardiff City, which obviously is a huge club. How was that for you?
I think it's always a tough one. I love my time at Rotherham, and I don't think I would have moved. To be honest, I was up at the end of the season. I was 30, and looking back, my gut feeling when someone like that rings you, I never thought I'd get there. From going from hating football to all of a sudden moving to a club that was in the Premier League the year before. Massive. It's a massive club.
Yeah.
And I was up at the end of the season. I was starting to get a few people say, "Look, we'll take you at the end of the season," but I don't really live my life like that. This opportunity came, and it was like, you know what? I never thought I'd get it. And it's an opportunity to go and play in a club, which, like I say, I never thought I'd get. And went there, had a medical, and you just realise the size of it. Everything. It was 2 days medical. Going to a training ground, all of a sudden you meet, like, you're with Premier League players like Fabio De Silva, you're with Kenwyn Jones, you're with Peter Whittingham, you're with all these players that you're just like, this is just an incredible setup. Yeah. But I think I struggled there. I moved there when we moved the family down. My wife followed me again, and we moved down there. And I think the biggest thing I struggled with there was, wherever I've been, I felt like I've always worked as hard as I can to get to where I've got to. That's how I feel I am generally as a person. But I got there, and I've really struggled with the money side of how much people earn to actually their dedication to football.
Yeah. I was gonna just a quick one out. And this is no disrespect to you either, because you've had a fantastic career, but I'd always like to know this, because you see it with managers nowadays where they'll go to a club and it might just be that little bit too big for the manager. Did you feel that as a player, or was it really that you just struggled that they were on so much more money and things like that? Or was it, like you say, it was just maybe that little bit too big, but you had to still do it, didn't you?
I think that, I don't know if it was too big. I think what happened is that I played and I scored on my debut, so it started brilliantly. But I think what it was is that I've come from Rotherham playing every game, got in a routine. I think I've got my best when you play regular. I have to play. I can't be someone who doesn't play and start. And when I got there, it was obviously the time when Tan had taken over, was in charge. They were red instead of blue.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we moved, and every journey. So like I say, my wife's a doctor. So when she worked on a Friday night, and we flew everywhere because obviously, to go and play Middlesbrough away from Cardiff, so, a long journey. So we flew. So my mum had to drive 5 hours from Cambridge every Friday or whatever to come look after my little ones. And it just completely disrupted how we were. But I generally felt like, I think I felt a little bit disappointed rather than that I was up and I thought I was going to get a new deal. And they offered me a new deal, and it was a 1 year. It was like, we felt like, you're getting older. But I just played 122 games on the spin, never been injured, and I felt a little bit let down. And I think at that time, it was like, right, do you know what? I can't allow me to get injured at 31 and go into the summer not having a club. I think that was a little bit of a fear, probably, of being without a club, which is, tough when you're a player. So I love my time. I love the place. I love the people. I just think maybe, like you said, Lee, I think whether it was too big or whether it was just maybe just I probably maybe felt I wasn't quite at that level. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe,
you get that. And it comes down to that belief again, doesn't it? Like you say, when you're in front of the goal and you're going to score. It's even that in life. It's when you take on jobs or when you go into different environments. If you're not confident or you're not quite feeling it, it just doesn't quite work. But it's still a fantastic move. And if you don't do it, I think you have regrets for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean?
I think what happened as well is that I think that it was seen as a negative in Cardiff, if that makes sense, at the club. As an outside fans are like, right, we're signing a 30-year-old? Like, we're Cardiff. We shouldn't be doing that. So, and then the problem is that you have flashbacks. Oh God, I have got to prove these people wrong. And then you try too hard, and then it just doesn't work. But listen, do you know what? Looking back now, would I have stayed? I probably would have stayed at Rotherham, but then who knows what would have happened? And would I live that? Probably would have stayed up there, and the whole career would have changed. So do you know what? I do believe that things happen for a reason. I genuinely do think that, and I know that's such a wishy-washy statement, but I genuinely do. And the rest of my career worked out to my advantage, I believe. So,
I was gonna skip. Obviously, you've gone Wigan, MK Dons, Northampton. We're going to go into Stevenage in a minute, but I just want to know a little bit more about Wigan as well. What was that like? Because it's actually not their main sport in Wigan, is it? Really, it's the rugby. No. So you look at their stadium; it's empty quite a bit. And what was that like, Wigan? I know you weren't there for a long time, but was it a bit of a strange one?
Yeah, Wigan was tough because my family was still living in Cardiff, and I stayed in the hotel there. The owner. We owned a hotel there, and I stayed in his. I had an apartment there, and it was lovely. It was, on my own. But I had 2 kids at home, a wife in Cardiff. I thought I'd go on loan again because I felt my gut instinct was right to go and join a club that's got an amazing training ground. Gary Caldero's manager. Go and get promoted and go and get back up north where we kind of got used to living. Yeah. And I just struggled without my kids, struggled without my family, because my family had always moved with me. Yeah, my family had always moved with me, so I've struggled.
Yeah, how did you obviously done little spells at MK Dons, a bigger spell at Northampton, and then how did the Stevenage one come about? It was a free transfer, wasn't it? And now how did it?
I think the thing is for us is that when I left, we made a decision to leave Cardiff because to move back home to here. My dad was ill at the time, and that's why I say it worked out for the best of my whole life and career type thing, because I got to spend time with him. Whereas if I'd have gone up north, I wouldn't have had that. So actually, to me, I love football. I love it. It's my biggest passion, but your family as well is my main thing. So I moved back and I turned down a deal to go to Sheffield United to stay close to home. So I signed for Northampton. And then when I was at Northampton, we had Robert Page, who was a brilliant manager, and he signed me. And then when Robert got sacked and Paisley got sacked, Jimmy Floyd, we had Justin Edinburgh came in, and then Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank came in. And when Hasselbank came in, I got that feeling, the same feeling as what I was getting at Cambridge. I just didn't enjoy football anymore. I didn't enjoy. I was going through a tough time because of my dad and everything, and I just didn't enjoy football anymore with him. It was just I saw it as a job. I didn't see it as a love anymore. He took the love of football out for me personally. That's my personal opinion. And then I spoke to Sarli, and I just got that little flame again. I got the flame of going to. I spoke to him. I spoke to Phil, and I just got the flame of where I lived. I live outside Bedford, and to me, I was like, do you know what? I can stay at home with my family. And I just got the flame. I went to a training ground. The minute I saw him, I went, let's do it. I need to do it. And I pushed hard to get out. I had another half a year in League One with Northampton. I just wanted to get out. I saw what the place was. I loved the training ground. I liked Sarli. And I just generally thought, you know what, this is the right place for me. And again, my gut instinct came about, and that was. And I was full steam ahead. Get it done. So we had
Sarli on the first podcast. Obviously he's a proper character, but what does he demand from players out there? What was he like as a manager for you?
I thought he was very good coach. I think every day we went in and it was good coaching. He knew what he wanted in terms of every day. He was very understanding to players. He's got a family, very understanding. But it was just really for me, because I'd come from Jimmy to him, and all of a sudden I did it, and I turned up at the training ground, and he was there, and he was waiting, and it was like, do you know what? He wants me. Yeah. And that was the biggest thing for me. He wanted me. We spoke every day on the phone for 2 weeks. Right, let's do this. Let's get this going. And I thought, coaching wise, I thought he was excellent as a coach. I love working with him, and obviously for me, the Forest Green was really disappointing because obviously I just signed for him and I was just getting fit because I hadn't played, and then all of a sudden that happened, and it was a tough one to take because I generally didn't feel it was. But so then I never got the chance, obviously, to play again with him. So that was disappointing for me because I really liked Darren, to be honest.
And then I think it came as quite a bit of a big surprise for a lot of Stevenage fans, really, that you retired and took up the under-18s head coach role. How did it all come about?
It came about, I think, because sometimes when I moved and I wanted success here, I spoke to Sully and I spoke to the chairman, and I said, this is a club that I really, honestly, I feel like the training ground, everything, and we deserve to get real success at the football club. And I really wanted to be a part of that. I saw Goddard, I saw Newts. We had real good players with Ben coming through, Kenners. I just felt like we were onto something. And then I think when Dino took charge, I played and I played a lot of games. But towards the end of that season, I really felt like I had an injury in my calf, and then I just couldn't get back to where I wanted to get back. And I feel like I'm quite honest like that. And actually, when I felt like I couldn't do what I wanted to do to the standards of what I feel like I can do them, I'm cheating the club. I would have been cheating the club, the people that pay their money to come and watch. And I think for me, it was a big decision to make, because I probably could have carried on, or I could have carried on, but I don't feel like I could have given the football club everything I wanted to give. And that was how I decided.
I think that's a big one, mate. I think people that haven't played football won't probably understand, but you just know in your body, don't you? I knew my time when I was playing, I just knew you're not the same, you can't train the same. And when you dedicate yourself and your life to it, very, very difficult. And you just know, and there'll always be players that hang on for that few extra quid. And listen, that's down to them. But if you just know, and if you can't give no more, you do the right thing, don't you? And actually, it's planned out to be very good in the end, because, like you say, it's probably the right time. So looking back now, you feel it was the right time for you to do that.
Yeah, listen, I think I've always been someone who I can run, and I still run now. And I think if you were to base your running on how your game on how you run, or just simple things like that, then I should still be playing. But my game was never based on that. It was based on heading, being competitive with people, being aggressive. And the minute that kind of starts to go, losing headers that I thought I should be winning and things like that, it gets frustrating. Not getting onto the crosses because you're just that little bit too, maybe lacked a yard, whatever. I feel that you can't play to how I want to play. And listen, I would have loved to have carried on because it's done what I've done. But I think that when I spoke to my wife, and I spoke to everyone around me. I just said, look, do you know what? I've been given a fantastic opportunity. I went to America to coach with one of my good friends, and I was out there and I spoke to Phil, and I said to him, look, I think the time's come where I would like to carry on, but as coaching. And he offered me I spoke to Robbie and Phil, and he offered me the 18s. And I think he knows that I took, it was a big decision, but it was something that I felt like, do you know what? I feel like it's my time to give back, hopefully, and learn and develop myself. But I'm not someone who I'm afraid I am new age in terms of learning. But the biggest thing for me is hopefully what I can bring to the players, what I thought is that I can give them an honest description of what it takes to be a footballer in my eyes. And that's not all about talent. None of my things would be about talent. None of it.
So how did you find adapting it? Because then, just fast forwarding a bit from that, you then ended up getting into a first team coaching role. How difficult was that for you to be trying to talk these players through that a couple of months earlier on you were actually in the changing room with as one of the lads?
Do you know what? I honestly, Jack, I feel like it wasn't hard at all. I genuinely feel like because I'd have their respect, because of the fact that I treated people with respect, I was always honest with people. I wouldn't say to them anything that I wouldn't say to their face. As a player, and now as a coach and as a manager, I wouldn't. The hardest thing in life is to be honest with people, especially football. If someone's not doing their job, people talk about being ruthless, about these managers that look ruthless. Ruthless is being honest and actually telling players what they probably don't want to hear, but it's the truth. And whenever I've gone into coaching, I've always tried to do that now. That's always one thing. I've always wrote down bits and pieces that I would always want to do if I have, as when I was a player. Right, what would you want to do now if you're a manager? What would you do? And the biggest thing and the hardest thing to do is to be honest with people, because you open yourself up, but actually the one thing that players want is honesty. They want honesty because
I'm a big one on that, mate. And I think as well that at the time, and players are very difficult. You get different players, and I remember Sarli saying last week, sometimes you do have to lie to players and tell them how great they are because they need it, and that's a fact. But at the same time, with that honesty, I tell you what that does. A lot of players will go away and they'll have the ump with you for half hour, but then they might go away and actually look at themselves, because there's nothing better than getting praised from the manager. So if you then go to them 3 weeks later, listen, you've got to took on board what I've done and you've done it to a T and you've been brilliant. That's a great feeling for a player. And you can't have that all the time. You have to know where you're going wrong. And if I don't want to hear it, they shouldn't be at the level, to be honest with you. They need to know, and they need to understand, and they need to respect it. And I think it's the best way to go, because there's nothing worse for me than a manager telling you you're great and then telling everyone else at the football club he ain't no good. We've got to get rid of him as quickly as we can. It's not right.
I think the biggest thing as well, Jay, is what you're saying about that, is that what I did is I made sure that whenever I coached from the very beginning, I was key in how I would be. How would I want people to be? Intense, aggressive, hardworking, give absolutely everything every day. And like I said, the talent box will come out. And that's one big thing I've learned. And And if you demand that from the very beginning, people will have that respect and they'll do it for you because they'll learn that that's what you demand. And every day that's what I do. And that's because that's how I was, that's how I am. And coaching makes no difference to play, and that's exactly what I'll demand of them. And to be honest with you, as long as you are respectful and you put on sessions that are fun or make players think, they're going to enjoy it, and that's how you gain respect.
Yeah, totally.
So up until before you butt in, Lee, with the next question, how did as yourself, who's been very, very high level in the game, how did you find this season up until when you took over as a manager, going in, coaching, not getting the results you wanted, still doing what you believed was right? How did that feel for Alex Revell?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, obviously, because you have an idea of you want to make a difference. You want to go in there and you want to make a difference to the run of results, and you want to make a difference to players. You want to make players better. You want to make players believe that they can win games, that they are better than the people you're playing. And I think under, when Graham came back, I did a lot of coaching with the players that weren't involved in the team. So my job was to make sure that they stayed, because I always remember a Mourinho comment that actually when he was at Chelsea, the hardest part of his job was making sure the players on the outside weren't unhappy, because that's what keeps the starting 11, ticking over. They keep the standards of the starting 11. And so my job, I felt to myself, was important, because they're the tough ones, because the people that aren't playing, how do you keep their motivation? How do you keep them demanding standards if they're not in the team? So I learned a lot. From that time, because I was coaching people that, weren't in the team. So it was tough, because you have standards yourself and you demand them. But when you're not manager, obviously it's hard to demand those standards, because your standards might be different to the manager. So what you have to do is you have to learn, right, do you know what? I'm going to do exactly what the manager says, because he is the manager. That is what you are. And you support and guide and players. But at the end of the day, what you want to do is, I believe that if you're a staff member, if you're a hitman, you're a fitness coach, you're a physio, you all are together. You have to be together as one. And all throughout this season, I've tried my best to learn, but give the players something and an experience every day that they learn from to take into the next game. And that's what I've tried to do.
We said the same, Jay, didn't we, the other day to Darren Curry about, he had two totally different managers when he was an assistant. He had Wayne Bennett, I think it was, who was a footballing style manager, and then goes to John Steele and works with John. He played for John as a manager, as a player as well, but two totally different ways of playing. And I asked him the question, was it really hard to adapt? Because Darren is a footballer and he's always been renowned for his footballing ability. So for yourself, was that difficult, or did you find that quite simple? I'm following the manager's instructions and I'll adapt to how I've got to be.
Listen, I think because when you're a player, you have to adapt. You could have one manager there, all of a sudden he goes, then you have to adapt to new styles. And as a coach, you learn, and you have to then develop yourself to get the trust of the manager, because after obviously Graham came in with no staff, and then he brought Nelson, and it was like, do you know what? I want to make sure that all my work is to the standard of the manager, because that is who's in charge. That is who is in charge, and I will work my hardest for him, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be where. That's the simple fact. And if I can help my coaching with then we need to get up the table. And that to me is important. It doesn't matter who's in charge. Us getting out of where we're at the minute is the most important thing. And that's how I wear every day.
Yeah. Just going on to the next little bit. Obviously, they put you in charge. Stevenage put you in charge as manager till the end of the season. in really difficult circumstances. But I mean, I know from just myself when I got the job at Biggleswade as manager, that must have been some moment for you, mate, to become manager. But at the same time, knowing how difficult the job was with the place in the league at the time. But I bet that was an exciting time, a sleepless night at the same time, because you're thinking, how am I going to start getting results?
Listen, I think, to be honest with you, for me, when it came, it was best moment for me personally in my career, because like now down to me to and the staff to create an environment. The biggest thing to me was to create an environment that players could come in and learn, and I said it when I took the job, that I said about getting that enjoyment, and I think it's a tough one, but when you enjoy doing something, you play to your best without a shadow of doubt. You have to create an environment. You have to but you can't just click your fingers and start winning. It's not as easy as that, especially with, you know, how this season's gone. And to me, the biggest thing is to create an environment of, like I said earlier, I've mentioned it a lot, of good people that want to make a difference, want to come in every day, be the best they can be, have this togetherness that is literally, it's unbreakable. To me, that is so important.
Yeah.
And my main focus now, right, we have to get a group of people that actually believe we can get away from where we are, because we have good individuals, but we have to be a team to be able to get out of it. And I see the challenge. Listen, I can't control what I can control. So now it's about I can do now. Players know how I want to be, how I want to work. Again, it's intense. It's hard work, but it's enjoyable. Love, because I feel some of these players are probably where I was at Cambridge and maybe at Cardiff. That love of football, when you lose and things aren't going for you, it's very hard sometimes. People think it's easy. It's not. It's not. It's not something, like I said, you can click your fingers. It's something you have to get through. And once you break it, then you all of a sudden start playing. And it's not easy to get over that. But with everything, I'll help every single one of them every day. Sure, come whenever this season gets finished, that we aren't in a position where we're in, because I'm one of them. And if players can't do that, then they won't be involved. That's basically what I've said. We have to demand that, because that's all it's going to take to get us where we are.
Yeah, no, definitely.
No, definitely.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a long road with what's going on at the moment, mate. But listen, you've done well. Hopefully, you get a chance to finish a job, and so far you're doing very well with it, mate. I think you've got some supporters' questions, Jay, haven't you?
Okay, Alex. So we've spoke to a couple of Stevenage fans today to send their questions in for you. First question is, who was the most influential manager you've played under, and which one has left the biggest impact?
I think I've got two, obviously, with my time at Rotherham with Steve Evans, but I think that influential wise was George at non-league. I think at Braintree, just because of the amount of time he spent and the personal time he spent with me, you know, developing me and made me believe. And I think what it does show is that when you put that time into players, you get rewards. And you don't always get that time as a coach, as a manager, but it's worth its weight in gold when you do. So I think he's probably been the one of the biggest influences on my career. I think also growing up, when I was a pro, I had Roy McFarland at Cambridge, and he's the only manager that I've ever seen when he left that actually the pros were near on crying because of an impact that he had on them. So I think it goes to prove that when you are a people person and you get that relationship with players, they have a massive impact on you as a person.
Okay, second question. Having had two different approaches this season, the softer approach and the more demanding approach, do you have to find a balance, and does it depend on the group?
100%. 100%. It depends on the group. I think what you've got to do is, you know, unfortunately, that the aggressive approach hasn't worked. I don't believe it. I think that you have to be aggressive at times, but that's not always screaming and shouting it. Like I said, it's being ruthless with your selection. It's being ruthless with how you train. It's not always just about what people see. I think sometimes a lot of what people see is a lot of a show sometimes, but actually it is all about the group. You have to get the best out of your group, and that's the job of a manager. It's the job of coaches. It's the job of all staff, is to realise and develop that group into a culture and a standards that you would accept as a manager, as a person. And I think as a manager, that's one thing that I believe that hopefully I can really bring, is understanding the players and where they are and getting the best out of them, because we haven't seen the best out of them this season. And that's probably the major disappointment for all of us.
So, last one. Where are we at now? Are you looking at a desire to build at Stevenage, or are we still in kind of full survival mode at the minute at the club?
Say that again. Sorry.
Are you planning ahead, or are you still thinking of survival mode at Stevenage day to day?
I think we always have to plan ahead, because what we cannot do is let a season like this happen again.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's hard to plan ahead because it's a very difficult time for everybody, and it changes so much that we don't know when we're going to get back playing. The most important thing to me is that we prepare to start again this season, and that we have a way of playing, and that we have a way that we're going to return, and the players are fit and hungry and ready to prove a point that, we've had a long time off. Hopefully they've gone back and they've realised and they've looked back at what they've done to see how they are and how they feel about their own performances this season. We've had a lot of Zoom calls about how we look back and how we change that. But as a football club and as myself, I want this football club and myself and everybody to learn from this experience of what we've done this year. Never let that happen again. Let's make sure that when we come back, we are, if we're preparing for next season, we are a club that is full of people that want to die for the shirt, want to die for each other, want to die for me and the staff, and I will do that for them. And that's the most important thing for me. This football club is an unbelievable community football club, and that's one thing we have to develop and bring back. We have to get that as hard as we can back to those days when you used to turn up as an away team and think, I don't want to play here today. I don't want to be here today. That's what we need. And I know that speaking to you, and I know that's, we had it this year with the fans that stayed behind after the games.
Yeah.
One club. And I believe that, and I want to bring them days. It made me proud. It made me when I saw it, it fills you with emotion to think, right, do you know what? This is how much people care about it. Let's get players and let's get a group of people that feel the same. And I really believe that hopefully that's what I want to do. I believe that is a massive, massive thing in moving forward as a football club. And we have to learn from our mistakes, all of us, to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Just one more from me before we go into a little quick fire. Selfishly for you, did you see yourself, I've made no secret for myself, it was all about going into management, even from a kid. Did you see yourself doing that? Was it management you wanted to do after playing? I know obviously the coaching side, but did you see yourself, listen, you've been given a fantastic opportunity, and from what I've heard today, you thoroughly deserve it. I think you've come across superb. But is it something now that you want to get into? This is you set now, it's going to be a manager?
Yeah, listen, I think the biggest thing, Lee, and I think the biggest thing is whenever you're a coach, you never ever stop learning. Like, to me, and I'm only young, and I don't mean that to suck eggs, but what I'm trying to say is that you'll never stop learning. And for me personally, the way I manage people will always be based on experiences that I've faced and experiences that I've felt as a player. Not just as a player, as a person. Now, I believe that football is no different to any walk of life. If you treat people well, they will work incredibly hard for you.
Yeah.
That is how I believe
Totally
and that will always be how I am. That will always be how I manage. I will treat them with the respect that they deserve. But if they don't give that back to me, then they won't be a part of it.
Yeah.
Because they're not the people that we want within the football club. We want people that care about each other, care about, like I said earlier, care about the football club. So I think for me, I always found myself as a manager more than probably a coach, because I feel like I'm always going to learn coaching. And it's something, you know, when you come out of football and you start coaching, it's something that people think, oh, it should be easy. It's not. It's not, because the reason why it's not easy is because you've got to understand, why are you putting on that session? What do I want to get out of it? When you're a footballer, you just do it. You just do it. You go and get a ball and you kick it around. You know, you just do it. But when you're the coach, you have to have a reason for doing it. What do you want out of it? What are we trying to achieve? Got to test the players. So this is all things that I need to learn, and this is what I read, you know, of books and my experiences with listening to people and watching sessions. But as a manager, I generally feel it's about how you treat people. And I think if you're honest and you're respectful and you don't change your principles, you don't change your values, then you can manage people in the right way. Treat people well, and they'll work incredibly hard. That to me is a real big phrase that I will always use, because I really believe in it.
Yeah, I'm very much with you on that. I think you know, my style is I love to build relationships with people and players. I love to always be there for them on the phone, or if ever they need me, and feel like I'm approachable. At the same time, I like to get in and amongst it and have a laugh and a joke with them, but at the same time that they know at 1:45 or 2 o'clock or 2:15 when you go and warm up, they know it's business, and we have to get on with it, and we're ready to go. And I think that's really important as a manager. You don't want to be too strict, but they feel like they can't get into you and can't talk to you. What's your kind of style? Are you similar to that? Are you getting amongst the boys? Do you train with them? What you like?
I'm someone who I've got to be honest. What I think it's really difficult, because obviously this year I did kind of come back to play.
See that,
yeah. I want it, but I feel like now it's my job now is to manage people, and my job now is to create a coaching team and a staff that will deliver all of the coaching, the best coaching these players can have, and the best, you know, physical aspect, everything. And I'm there to be the person to make sure that every single day they give absolutely everything. And that's where I feel I am. Listen, if people need to be, you know, told what's happened, they need to be told. That's the way you are as a manager. I spoke to a few people, and a lot of people said that Roberto Martinez, when they worked with him at Swansea, never once did he swear.
No.
So, but he had respect beyond belief. And I think you don't have to be that aggressive type in terms of that, but you have to demand standards.
Yeah, you do.
But you also have to have a group of players that demand standards of themselves.
And buy into it as well.
And buy into it. And that's why it's key now that whenever we move forward as a football club, we don't go rogue. We don't go those players that maybe might not be able to. We do that. We have a simple message now. If you come to this football club, you come here to work hard. It's going to be intense, but do you know what? You're going to enjoy it, and you're going to love being a part of this football club, which is what we all want. And when you do that, and when you create that environment, you create something that actually is very special, and that's what I want to do.
Brilliant, mate.
Superb. Well, at the end, we like to do a bit of a quick fire, Revs. It doesn't normally happen that it's quick fire because we end up talking too much. But are you ready for these ones?
Yeah, let's go.
Best player you've played with or against?
Against was Michael Ballack, I think, for Chelsea, and then played with was Peter Whittingham, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, we've done this one, mate. I'll probably skip this one. No, I'm actually I'm gonna ask it, but I'm gonna ask it differently. Who's worse, George Borg or Steve Evans? I mean, just temper. That one time that you're walking at half time.
Oh, Borgie all day.
Borgie all day.
All day. Yeah. Borgie all day.
I'm going to change the next question as well, because we've already talked about his best goal ever, I'm sure. Did you fulfil your potential as a player?
No. No. I fulfilled my dreams, but I don't think I fulfilled my potential.
Do you think if you hadn't have met George at Braintree, you could have had a life on a gym floor? Do you think he saved it?
I think he's definitely saved me. I think that I would have, I would have ended up being a personal trainer probably now, I think that's probably where I'd have stayed.
Last one, mate. One we always ask. My favourite, Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Oh, no.
There we go. I'm telling you, he's coming back.
4-2.
4-2.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, Ronaldo.
Oh, no, brilliant, mate. Listen, it's
right.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. I thank you very much. And I've got a feeling you've got a long career in management ahead of you, mate. Thank you.
Hopefully, mate. Hopefully. Thanks very much, guys.
Rebs, thanks so much, mate. Absolutely brilliant talking to you.
See you,
no
mate.
problems. See ya. Great to see you. Bye-bye.